Hi, this is Old Bull for another reflection that can change your life. Stay with me until the end and find out ... They told you that giving up is weakness. That real men stay, fight, fix everything. But let me ask you, how much of your soul have you already spent trying to hold together what's been broken for years? The world shames the man who walks away, calls him a quitter, a coward. But maybe, just maybe, the strongest move you'll ever make is the one where you turn your back on what's killing you and keep walking toward what might finally save you. There comes a point where staying loyal to the wrong place, the wrong people, the wrong version of yourself, ... becomes the very thing that buries you. And no one's gonna come hand you permission to walk away. You have to take it. That takes guts most folks don't have. But if you're tired, worn down, carrying weight that ain't yours anymore, then this might be the conversation you've been needing to hear for a long time. Because sometimes the most courageous thing a man can do is stop justifying his own misery. This ain't a message about quitting. It's a roadmap for survival, for freedom, for standing tall again in a world that keeps trying to make you kneel. And if you're brave enough to keep walking, just keep walking, something powerful happens. You stop being who they told you to be, and you start becoming the man you were always meant to be. You can lock a man in a room. You can chain his hands, tie his boots, and throw away the key. But if his mind's still his own, if he hasn't surrendered the freedom of his thoughts, you haven't broken him. You've only limited his reach, not his power. Real captivity starts when you start to believe the story someone else wrote for your life. And most men walk around free, but they've already given up the one thing no one could ever take without permission: their mind. I've seen men stuck in jobs they hate, marriages that suck the life out of them, and routines that make their hearts quiet and numb. Not because they're physically trapped, because they stopped thinking for themselves. Somewhere along the line, they swapped out their sense of direction for someone else's GPS. And I tell you this, brother, there's no worse kind of jail than waking up every day and forgetting who you are. Freedom ain't just distance or escape. It's remembering your name when the world tries to rename you. Out here in the wilderness, when I'm chopping firewood or cleaning my rifle, I remind myself that this mind, this old brain still burning with questions and memories, is my own damn territory. It's a quiet strength that doesn't shout, but it stands tall when storms hit. If you're out there feeling lost or worn out, don't go trying to run away just yet. First, ask yourself, has your mind already surrendered, or is it still yours to guard? That answer changes everything that comes next. A man doesn't get caught when the net tightens around him. He gets caught when he stops trying to find a hole in it. I've watched wild horses bolt through barbed wire and bruised skin just to stay free. And I've watched men, strong on the outside, walk straight into a trap with a calm face because somewhere along the way they decided they were already beaten. You can't break a man by force. Not really. You break him by convincing him that trying is useless. Back in my younger days, I had a buddy who got laid off, lost his house, and watched his wife pack her bags. He stopped shaving, stopped laughing, stopped calling. Not because the world hit harder than he could take, but because he believed the fight was over. That belief, that's the real prison. I've been tired, broken, and flat on my back, but I've never been captured. Because even in the dirt, my mind said, not yet. Not like this, Dot. It's the same with your own demons. Regret, fear, doubt, they're not stronger than you. They just whisper louder when you're worn out. But if you hold the line up here in your head, where your purpose lies, they can't lay a finger on your soul. You keep walking through the fire, and suddenly the chains fall off by themselves. That's the kind of manhood they don't teach in school. And just like that wild horse, it all begins with one stubborn decision. You haven't caught me yet. Most men don't break when life pushes. They break when life lets go. See, pressure by itself ain't always the enemy. Sometimes pressure wakes us up, gets us moving. But the real trick, the one most folks miss, is how pressure works alongside. Release. That rhythm push, then pull ain't random. It's a pattern, a tactic. Horse trainers use it. Manipulators use it. And if you ain't paying attention, the world will use it to teach you how to kneel without you ever noticing you've bent. There was a time I thought I was standing firm in a tough relationship. She'd nag, push, criticize, then suddenly stop, and sweet talk like honey dripping off a spoon. That soft moment felt like love, like peace. But it wasn't. It was a trap disguised as relief. When someone learns how to press just enough to hurt you, and release just enough to keep you coming back, they don't need chains. They've got timing. And if you can't see the game, you'll play it forever, thinking it's your fault. You're losing Dot, so I started watching everything like I watch a wild horse. Where's the pressure coming from? When does it stop? What changes when I shift my posture? You learn a lot about people in life when you stop reacting and start observing. That's when you take your power back, not by running from pressure, but by recognizing the release for what it really is. And once you do, you stop moving in circles. You start choosing your steps. And sometimes those steps take you right, out of the pen without anyone ever realizing you've gone. There's a whole world out there trying to tell you who you are. They'll label you by your job, your past, your silence, or your mistakes. But let me tell you something I've learned the hard way. When a man doesn't hold his own ground, someone else will build a fence around him. That fence may look like comfort. It may sound like praise. But if it ain't built on your values, your code, it's a trap in disguise. And when the storm hits, it's that moral spine that keeps your boots planted. I've had folks try to. They find me more times than I can count. You're too quiet, too stubborn, too old-fashioned. But I'd rather be stubborn and solid than praised for changing shape just to fit someone else's mold. Being a man ain't about applause. It's about knowing what's right even when it costs you, especially when it costs you. Like refusing to lie to get ahead, or choosing to protect someone even when no one's watching. That's the stuff no one puts on Instagram, but it's the reason you sleep with peace in your chest at night, that the world doesn't stop trying. It keeps poking, prodding, whispering, tempting. But every time you say no to what doesn't align with your spirit, you reinforce who you are. It's a discipline that builds character like steel under heat. It ain't loud. It ain't flashy. It's just quiet strength refusing to be shaped by a world that forgot what shape a good man even looks like. And if you can stay solid through all that pressure, you start to see who's really free and who's just decorating their cage. Most. Manipulation don't come through force. It comes through fatigue. The kind that wears you down little by little until you start thinking maybe they're right. Maybe you're the problem. But let me tell you, a man anchored in conviction is a wall the world can't climb. When you know who you are, and more importantly, why you do what you do, their tactics lose power. They can mock you, guilt trip. You twist your words, but if your heart's set firm, they can't steer the ship. Not unless you hand them the wheel. I remember one winter working with a green horse, wild, quick, and unpredictable. Every time I got close, he'd dance sideways, testing me. I didn't chase. I didn't shout. I just kept walking slow, steady, certain. And you know what broke through? Not pressure. Not tricks. Conviction. That horse finally stopped because he realized I wasn't going away, and I wasn't changing. It's the same with people. Stay consistent long enough, and those trying to manipulate, you lose interest. They move on to softer ground. And here's the thing. Your conviction doesn't have to roar. It doesn't need applause. It just needs to be real. That means living by values that don't shift with public opinion. It means saying no when it's easier to nod. It means waking up tired, but still choosing the hard right over the easy wrong. And every time you do that, you carve out a space where manipulation can't reach, because it can't take root in a man who refuses to bend. And that kind of strength, it scares the hell out of people who live by control. There's a kind of resistance that doesn't need a flag or a fight. It just needs a man who refuses to betray himself. In a world where everyone's shouting over each other, trying to prove who's more right, the man who stays quiet but firm in his values becomes a threat. He can't be bought, can't be swayed, can't be distracted by shiny promises. That kind of man is dangerous, not because he's violent, but because he knows exactly who he is. And that, my friend, is rare these days. I once met an old rancher, white beard like cotton, eyes sharp as a knife's edge. He still read his Bible at dawn, still opened doors for strangers, still believed in giving his word as a bond. Folks around town called him stubborn, outdated, even naive. But let me tell you, when things got hard, they all came running to him. Why? Because deep down, people crave something that doesn't change with the wind. And that's what your values are. Your anchor in the storm, your map when the road splits, your fire when the cold creeps in. You don't need to scream your beliefs from the rooftops. You just need to live them so loudly that the noise of the world can't drown them out. That means telling the truth when it costs you, walking away from things that corrupt you, and holding the line even when no one's watching. Especially then, because when you respect your own values, you stop asking for permission to be who you are, and that, in a world addicted to approval, is the most radical act of all. When a man stops moving, his thoughts start to rot. That's how emotional prisons are built, not with bars, but with stillness. You stop walking, you stop building, and before you know it, the pain settles in like fog in the valley. I've seen it happen to good men. They sit too long with regret, and it grows roots. They replay the hurt, feed the anger, memorize the failure. But the key was never to erase the pain. It was to keep moving through it, step by damn step. Some years back, after I lost someone I loved more than breath itself, I thought maybe I'd sit on that porch forever, nursing a bottle and some old stories. But the firewood needed splitting. The horse needed brushing. The trail needed riding. And every time I moved, even just a little, it loosened the chains grief had wrapped around my chest. Motion doesn't erase the wound, but it keeps it from becoming your identity. Because sorrow's heavy, but it's twice as heavy when you're standing still. So when you feel stuck, emotionally burnt out, lost in your own head, weighed down by all the what-ifs, don't go looking for a big solution. Just lace up your boots, sweep the floor, clean your truck. Take a walk through the trees. Do one thing, then another. And before long, you'll realize you were never truly trapped. You were just paused, and that stillness was trying to convince you it was permanent, but it never was, unless you let it be. I've seen too many men living lives they don't even recognize, waking up to someone else's schedule, chasing someone else's version of success, wearing titles that were handed to them, not earned or chosen. That ain't living. That's renting space in your own soul. A real man, one with a quiet strength, a deep sense of purpose, builds a life from the ground up, not from someone else's blueprint. And brother, it may be harder that way, but it's the only way you'll ever feel at peace when you lay your head down at night. Back when I first left town and bought a piece of land in the hills, folks said I was crazy. No steady paycheck, no modern comforts, no real plan. But I had something they didn't: clarity. I wanted a life where I could split firewood in the morning, ride the trail with a saddle I trusted, come home to silence and a cigar under the stars. That was my rhythm, my fire. It didn't come from a brochure, and it sure as hell wasn't trending, but it was mine. And that made all the difference. You don't have to move to the woods or live off the grid to build something real. You just have to stop letting the world tell you what should matter to you. Maybe it's fixing up old trucks. Maybe it's raising your kids without a screen between you. Maybe it's praying before supper, even when no one else does. Whatever it is, make sure it's yours. Because when the wind comes howling, the only shelter that stands is the one built with your own two hands. Sometimes the worst traps come with a smile. You won't hear the snap of a bear trap or the click of a cage. No, these ones come dressed as comfort, approval, applause. They pat you on the back when you agree, praise your growth when you conform, and call you brave, but only if you play by their rules. That kind of acceptance feels warm at first, but it's the kind that slowly kills your identity without ever raising its voice. A man has to be sharp enough to see when he's being tamed, not welcomed. I had a job once where every compliment came with a leash. You're just what we need. As long as you tone down your opinions, you're a great fit. As long as you don't bring that whole God and country thing to meetings. And I'll admit, it felt good to be liked for a while. But deep down, I could feel something rotting. I was being reshaped little by little into a version of myself they found easier to manage. That's not respect. That's quiet surrender wrapped in sugar. You've got to watch for it. At work, in relationships, even in the way the world tells you what kind of man you're allowed to be now. They'll say, "We accept you," but what they really mean is, "We tolerate you as long as you don't step out of line." So listen close, brother. If the price of being accepted is silencing your soul, then it's not acceptance. It's a bargain with the devil. And once you learn to spot that trade coming, you'll walk away from it without even hesitating. Living your truth ain't a one-time decision. It's 1,000 small ones. Every single day. It's showing up as yourself when it'd be easier to. Wear a mask. It's telling the truth when a lie would smooth things over. It's saying no to what feels wrong, even if everyone else is cheering for it. That kind of life doesn't come with medals or spotlights, but it builds a man from the inside out, one choice at a time, one stand at a time. That's what being. A man really means having the backbone to be who you are, even when it costs you dot. I knew a guy, a good man, who once told me he felt like he was play acting through his whole life. He wore the suit, drove the car, smiled at the meetings. But deep down, he was hollow because none of it was him. He was chasing a script someone else wrote. When he finally walked away, he didn't find applause. He found silence, and that silence scared the hell out of him, until he realized it was the first honest sound he'd heard in years. That's the cost of truth. Sometimes you lose the noise, but you find your soul. And here's the part nobody tells you. It's not a mountain you climb once. It's a road you walk daily, through wind and doubt and fire. Some mornings you'll feel strong. Other days you'll feel like quitting. But the man who keeps going, who holds the line, even trembling, becomes the kind of warrior this world quietly respects. Because real strength isn't loud, it's consistent. And when you live by that quiet truth inside you, the kind that can't be bought or faked, you don't just survive, you rise. And in rising, something unexpected begins to unfold, ... So now, I'll ask you plain and simple, what weight have you been carrying that's not yours? What lie have you been living? Just to keep the peace? And what would it look like if, for once, you stopped asking for permission and just kept walking toward the man you were born to be? Maybe it's time you stopped explaining yourself. Maybe it's time you honored the part of you that's tired of playing along. I'm not here to give you the answers, but I hope I stirred enough questions inside you that you won't sleep through your own life anymore. Because the truth, the fight isn't out there, it's inside. And if you've made it this far, you've already got more strength in you than they ever gave you credit for. Now I want to hear from you. What part of this hit home the hardest? Drop it in the comments. Let's keep this fire going. And if this message spoke to something inside you, then subscribe to the channel, hit that bell, and stay with me. We've got more ground to cover, and I ain't done walking either. Not by a long shot